So hello everybody, happy new year. Welcome back to the Note Genius YouTube channel. My name is Brian and I'm here today with Sierra Davis, who is another note investor who has been in the game 5 years, right? Going on six.
Yep. Yep.
Fantastic. Awesome. So Sierra's here to share her experience and drop some gems with us. So let's just start off with a little bit about who you are and how you became a note investor.
Yeah. I'm Sierra Davis. I kind of started figuring out what to do with like passive income. That was a buzzword back in 2017 and 2018. I knew I wanted to do real estate, but I just didn't know what facet. There was like a bunch of things just kind of thrown in your face, whether it's wholesaling, rental properties, you name it. And so one of the things that really attracted me to notes was just the ability to kind of like create some passive income and cash flow. But it took me a while to get there. So I have a cousin who's a really good mentor of mine. So in 2017, I kind of started just private investing with him, and that's kind of got my start is just private investing um, every 6 months, maybe some rehab that he was doing, and then kind of like helping him be like the money girl for him and his flips and things of that nature. And so what also interested me was he was also doing something like creating notes, and so he was doing a lot of contract for deeds, and so that kind of attracted me, and I was like interested in like figuring out like, oh, so you're doing this after you've renovated the property and things like that. And so that really attracted me to say you could create these mortgage notes or notes and things like that, do seller financing, owner financing, and then become the bank without having to like be a landlord, fix anything. You're just kind of like hands off. And so that's kind of like where I started because I come from a background where I'm in tech.
Mhm.
And so I didn't want to leave my job, but I also wanted to make and supplement my income. And so I think that's kind of what attracted me to like the mortgage note side of real estate and saying, hey, you can create notes, you can buy notes, you can broker notes and things like that. And this whole different strategy was like mind blowing. In 2018, I just jumped right into it.
Nice. So you didn't notes were kind of your first venture into real estate then. You know, most people start with buying a couple rentals and then they find notes later and you kind of
Yep.
went right off the bat. Yeah.
Yeah, I went out the bat. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, me too. I tried a couple other things over the past few years and I'm like, nah, this is the one. This is the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So that's really good.
would you say that notes kind of align with your lifestyle vision a little better than the traditional avenues?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Just looking at how I like so because I work a 9 to 5, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, that type of thing attracted me. And so I could spend a few hours a day or even, a week's time just looking at some notes and doing the math, right? It's really just like being more analytical and finding deals that kind of fit my my mindset or things that I want to do for that month or for the year. And so that's kind of what attracted me is like the ability to be a little bit hands off of it, but still getting a passive income, but still being in the game of real estate, um, and just looking to see what deals I can get within that avenue. So my lifestyle, I think it fits my lifestyle a little bit better than doing rentals, fixing up properties, getting, calls in the middle of the night. Cause after I've worked all day, I don't, tend want to be doing extra work for that. So I think that's really important about the lifestyle that no buying, brokering, and even doing seller financing can give you.
Hmm. So how many hours a day or hours a week do you spend on your note business?
Um, I would say 5 hours a week. I don't do too much. And because I basically, what I do now, my strategy is I pretty much buy like notes every 2 to 3 months.
Mhm.
And then that process, I've kind of like hands off where I have a transaction coordinator. I use a servicer. And so really the due diligence process I'm doing, I could spend, a bunch of times, like a bulk of time in doing that. And then kind of hands off. So then I'll let the servicer handle most of that time. But really, I think for my strategy, I don't take a lot of time to like think about the no business unless I'm something happens, or I got to work with the servicer to, the borrowers might be late or haven't, and things like that. So I definitely think that having a team has really helped me kind of cut that out down significantly.
Nice. So, all right. So going back to 2018, what was your experience like buying your first note? How'd you find it? Were you nervous about it? How'd that work?
Yes, yes. So I was definitely nervous about it. As I mentioned, my first note was from my cousin, who's my mentor. So he had this contract for deed that had been pretty paying pretty well. It was seasoned. I think they had, been paying for 24 months. So I thought this would be something that I could get started with. And so I bought that note. I think I bought it in like November of uh 2018,
Mhm.
and then by January it stopped performing. So I was like, what in the world? So that was my first introduction to buying a note. And so luckily, since with its contract for deed, it'll have a lot of extra strategies and things to do with that. But I just created a new note from there because the bar just, I don't know, still to this day, I don't know where they went, but um, I created a new note for that particular property, and it was free and clear. So that was also advantage because I think he got it from a tax sale, and so I sold it for about $75,000 on seller financing. So that's kind of how my initial start of no buying started. And I tell people all the time, um, it's a good industry, and I think it's really important. But there's also things that might happen, but there's also extra strategies that can kind of mitigate some of those risks. While I was super nervous, and I took advantage of like a mentor to help me out to say, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do, here's the things that are possible with this. And so, like, just looking at that and doing due diligence, it just happened. Unfortunately, they just, I don't, they went ghost, and so,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that just kind of the something that happened. So, but I think that's just an important testament to like the things that happen within the no industry and no business. You just have to make sure you have those strategies in place every time you buy a note.
All right. Yeah, I that's one of the things I like about the industry is there are a variety of remedies, I guess you
Yep.
could say, to kind of get out of a situation where somebody stops paying or the note doesn't go the way that you expected it to go. So that's
Yep.
good. I'm glad you're able to work that out.
Yeah. Yeah. But my second note, I actually created a note too, because that was also a good learning experience. Creating a note, and I still have the note today. So it's been about almost 6 years since they've been in that property, but that was a different little. It's a little bit more time consuming. With that, you like fixing the property, making sure that it's you know, ready to be sold on the market. But I definitely think the reward, you get paid twice, get the down payment as well as the monthly payment. So if that's something that people are interested, I definitely think the note the note industry is like gives you so many avenues within it, and
Mhm.
that's what I like about it. Like it's not straightforward. It's like every time you buy something, it's a different thing to think about and different puzzle, but you have some strategies and you've kind of like go through the list of your things that you're looking for, and you wanted to get, and just have your goals in mind to think about as you're buying and selling. So that's
Right.
kind of what I think about.
Cool. So, now that you have a few years of experience under your belt, when you are looking through opportunities, what kind of criteria are you looking for? Do you prefer certain states, certain UPB, remaining term? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, I do look at the different states because, like I said, I value my time in the process of like different states might be a little bit longer to remedy, and so I do definitely look at that. One of the key metrics that I do look at, outside of like the terms and the seasoning, is cash on cash return
Hmm.
for me because I think that is important for me and my goals. Essentially wanting to replace my income. So how, I use private investors, and so I want to make sure that I have whatever I invest, I want to make sure that I get that is working well for me. And so that's kind of the metric that I'm looking for, is cash on cash return, and then, doing the other due diligence processes going down the list. But really, I just kind of look at, where it's at, the terms, is a seasoning, cash on cash return, and things like that in loan to value. Because I really do think, because of those mistakes that I do make, I want to make sure that the property value is well, because if you don't look at that, I think that's a key that might hinder some of that profitability that you might gain. So that's definitely also a key, is making sure the value of the property as well. So, and we do that in the due diligence process.
That's a good point. Yeah, there are a few different things that you want to make sure you look at, and the actual property itself is definitely something you want to pay attention to. I tell people when I talk to them, like, even though we're buying the note, we're buying the paper, you want to make sure that the property is in an area that someone would want to buy in, and that
Yep.
it's in good condition. My mentor told me he had another student who bought a note on a property. Nobody went by to look at it, and the property actually caught on fire like a month or two before he bought
Oh,
the note, and nobody said anything. So
yeah.
you want to be able to avoid situations like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I also look at land too, and I think land is a very interesting thing too that I have in some of my portfolio. But um, yeah, I think what's important about land too is that sometimes that value is a little bit tricky. So you have to kind of look at what you can do with the land, and going through county records. I think that it takes a little bit longer to look at land if you're interested in buying, land notes. But they are really, the profit is a little bit better than properties, and the yield is probably a little bit better, but I think it comes with that risk and reward.
Okay, that was my next question. I see in some of your content you talk about land notes, and that's not something I've looked into for myself yet. But what is
Yeah.
the I guess what is the how do you feel about the security of land notes, I guess? Because with the mortgage notes, you're secured by the actual physical real estate. With land, it's just land, right?
Yeah. So what I think, how I look at it, is like a lot of the land notes that I've bought, they might be $500 a month. They have, 1200, 12% yield onto them. But I think the security for me is that I don't buy land more than like 10,000, right? $10,000. And I think that's security. So if something happens, and I do, they two typically have like a contract or a contract for deed on them. So I still hold the deed. So if something happens, I could probably flip that land. And so that's where I look at land a little bit differently, to where if something does happen, I could, own that land, um, without having, to kind of like think about it. But there are some non-performing notes that I do have with land, just kind of waiting to see what happens with that. So I definitely think that if you have a mindset of like looking at land, I definitely think that having a developer or somebody on your team, or someone that you can reach out to that has experience with land within the area, is going to be key to like say, oh, you can do this on, this X, Y, and Z on this property, or on this land. And so that's kind of like the things that I think about, as I'm going through my list of due diligence, is figuring out, those extra strategies and looking at the security of the land. But yeah, it can be tricky, but I definitely think it's not impossible, but I definitely think it takes a little bit more time and due diligence to do so.
Cool. Cool, cool. So that's a good segue into my next question. You mentioned you pursue land notes around 10K or so. And a lot of people when they talk about investing in general, but real estate, people think you need hundreds of thousands of dollars. What do you think is a good kind of capital level for people to buy a quality mortgage note?
Yeah, so I think I say anything between like 15 to 25 is a really good strong capital to get started. I think that's kind of where I started out. And right now, if I'm looking at a tape, like I could think about maybe with that 20, I could get to notes with that. But I definitely think that, I'm a big component of leveraging, other people's money, capital, to do deals. And I, invest in my self-directed IRA. There's a number of ways to get started, but I really think that, with that, I think it also too, like the caveat is like it's cheaper, not cheaper, but it's rental property. You have to put 20% down on like $100,000 loan. So just think about those. I think in partial notes, you can even get started with even less. So I don't think that people realize that you don't have to be like 100. I didn't, I don't have the, I didn't come from that. I'm fortunate enough to start getting where I am now, but I didn't start with that. And I definitely leveraged the people around me and just using some of the resources and um, being creative was the main thing. So I definitely think that there must is a misconception that you have to have a lot of money to start investing, but I definitely think that you need a little bit more, but I definitely think you can have leverage if you don't have that. So
Cool. All right. So if you found a partner who said they have just $100,000 that they're ready to invest, would you go ahead and just buy a big note, or would you break it down into like three or four, or how would you approach that?
yeah, so good question. I definitely think, well, first I would look at my goal and see what my goal is for that, month or year. But how I strategize is I would probably break it down from three to four notes at a time and go from there and start to build my cash flow. And so that's where I would get a partnership to say, okay, we're going to buy good quality notes and good, areas, and strong areas. And for me, if I also was looking at the length of term, because I'm passionate about like getting the cash flow to sustain for a very long time. So if it's a 30-year note, might, reconsider. But if I can like break it up and say, here's 15, here's, 10, here's 5, I'm still good. If something happens to that one note.
Got you. Got you. That makes sense. I think that's what I would do too. Probably break it up to uh give myself some security on the back end in case something
Yep.
happens.
Yep.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned in the beginning that your first note, it stopped performing and you were able to go create another note off of that, which is, very, very good as a strategy. Have you had any other like difficult or kind of strange dealings with notes that you picked up?
Um, so just not performing notes. I had one note where I had to work with a lawyer because they tried to sell it because um before they paid me, it was a little bit challenging within the state, but they tried to pay the note. They tried to sell the property without paying me first, and so it looked like they were doing some fraud or whatever. Because it was a contract for deed, and I, still had um, my business name was on the deed, and so they had to. But that was the only thing else, either not performing or just kind of like not doing the transaction correctly. But I've somewhat been fortunate to not have like super crazy experiences. Not to say that it's not going to happen, but I've been fortunate to kind of like think about exit strategies and the borrower and all that things to really help mitigate some of those risks.
So do you buy non-performers or just performers?
So I haven't, so right now I have not bought any non-perform. They just kind of non-perform. I do want to get in 2025, I do want to start buying non-performing, because I think I've heard a lot of success stories with that. And so I do want to start doing that. Um, second non-performing, I've heard some really good strategies on those too.
Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of variety you can go after. After I build up my residential portfolio a little more, I want to start looking at commercial and stuff like that too. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of places you can go. Okay, so how has note investing impacted your life over the past 5 years? I know you say your wife, your mother. Has it given you more time to spend with your family? Have you been able to knock off debt? Like what has note investing done for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I initially started no, I initially started just buy this note because I wanted to supplement my income to pay off my student loan debt. I had just graduated with my MBA and I just wanted to pay a little bit extra. And so I thought notes would be something that I could do and use that for. And so luckily it worked out well. I used the note payments to, increase my monthly payments. And then a couple of years down the line, the note that I did create actually she paid it off in full earlier than expected. So I was able to pay off my entire student loan debt way faster than I thought I would. So I was just chugging away at it, but that was my initial thing. It's like, hey, I want to supplement my income to pay just one student loan debt. And I think that's something that's really good for, to share because a lot of people like you have want to build this $1 million, $2 million portfolio, but I was just really focused and now I'm able to understand how to build wealth and how to maintain cash flow and passive income in a way that will sustain over time. So I really think that's just how I started, and it's been growing ever since.
That's awesome. Do you think that you'll branch out into other assets, or are notes going to be your main thing?
Yeah, so I think notes is going to be my main thing. I know I have a 401k, stock and ETFs and things like that, but really um the tangible thing of just having it, people can see property, and property has been really appreciating over time. And I think that I enjoy seller financing and notes because I mean, I've went to closings and people are so genuinely happy to have a home because they can't get a loan from the bank or anything like that. And so really, I feel like a win-win situation in the note industry is like I, get, steady cash flow, but also there's people that have homes because of the work that I've done, and people who are able to like appreciate it and fix it up themselves, and they really enjoy it. So I definitely think that this asset class is really important, and I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about it too, is because we are not, big institutions, we're not banks. We
Yep.
can take a more personal approach to kind of help people in their own individual situations. And I think that that moral side of investing adds a lot of there's a lot of reward in that. You
Yep.
know, just
Yeah.
collecting that cash flow, there's a lot of reward in helping people out.
Yeah.
So on the topic of helping people out, you have started a community called Earn, Grow, Thrive, where you teach
hmm
people how to become node investors like yourself. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yeah. So it's really a mentorship program to like help people, everyday people, whether you have like a 9 to 5, you're just looking to supplement your income, replace your income, and really just get started with note investing in the avenue of like real estate. Because I think a lot of people are focused on, wholesaling, rentals, and flipping, but really I've never even heard of note investing. It's very, very rare for me to even know anyone that knows what I'm talking about. And so I just want to encourage people to kind of like understand like this is another approach to real estate, and it's really been afforded me significant cash flow and passive income. So I think the goal of the mentorship is like to help guides people to get a note in within 90 days of like working and mentoring. Like you'll understand like some of the pitfalls that I've went through, some of the things that I looked at. Not to say that um, tell you exactly what note to get, but I definitely think that it's approach to have the strategies and the goals to understand like what is the goal that you're looking for, and that might be different for everybody, and it might be different from mine. And also like the avenues, like you can broker notes, you can create notes, you can buy notes. So just having that community of people who are just really interested in real estate but want to take a different approach, um, instead of being a landlord or wholesaling or being a flipper. So that's kind of a little bit about the community, and I want to make sure that people are and be able to grow and thrive in this industry if they really want to take action on it. So that's kind of what draws me to it, because I've been doing this for 5 years, and people always ask me about it, and so like I think it's a my my mission to kind of like help people just get started and do it.
Do you think that node investing is one of the better strategies for a beginner investor?
I definitely I think so, because I definitely think that beginners, especially the people that I know like working, they might have a lot of on their plate already. It's hard to get called in the middle of the night. It's hard to like a washer and dryer, HVAC goes out. You have to dish out money for that. With node investing, you do get a return on your money, whether it's performing or not performing. But there's ways to kind of structure those, and so you get a little bit of your time back. And I think that's one of the key aspects of node investing that I do like, is that the time that you do get to, it takes time to start and do due diligence and things like that. But once you get the ball rolling, you'll get used to it, get your skin in the game. You'll kind of figure out what the balance is. But I definitely think that even the capital, requirements is a little bit lower than rentals and things like that.
Right. Cool. So aside from getting into non-performers, what are your investing goals for 2025?
Yeah, just keep buying more buying more cash performing notes to increase my portfolio and getting more capital to, invest more. I invest a couple months every couple months to get a few notes, but really just kind of like the capital and access to it and just really having the mindset of just helping people like I mentioned. So those are my two goals is to keep investing and start looking at non-performing notes to kind of buy, use that strategy to get some re-performing notes and things like that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Sierra, thank you so much for your time. Please keep doing what you do, keep spreading the good word about notes. As far as where people can find you online, I know I learn a lot from your content, even as a note investor myself. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, so I'm on all social media at Hey Sierra Davis. So you can Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Awesome. Cool, cool. All right. Well, good luck with your goals this year going forward. I'll stay in touch with you and we'll keep in contact and
I
you
appreciate it.
we'll continue to, like I said, spread the word and let people know that this path exists because it's
Yes.
very, very underrated.
Yeah, best kept secret in real estate. I tell people all the time.
That's right. That's right. Well, Sierra, thank you. I hope you have a good rest of your day. That's all I have for you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.